September 14th, 2021, 3:42 p.m. A security camera in the parking lot of Riverside High School in Clarkston, Georgia, captured a seemingly ordinary moment. A 15-year-old girl walking toward a police patrol car, smiling and waving at the officer inside. She had no idea she was being watched, and she had no idea that this grainy footage would become the last confirmed sighting of her alive. What happened in the next few hours would shatter a family, expose a dangerous predator hiding behind a badge, and prove that sometimes the very people hired to protect our children are the ones we should fear the most. Because the person who abducted Kayla Henderson that day wasn't a stranger lurking outside the school gates. He was Officer Derek Morrison, 38, the school resource officer who had patrolled Riverside High's hallways for 6 years. Someone students trusted, someone teachers relied on, someone parents believed would keep their children safe. This is the story of how a police officer used his position to hunt a child, and how a family's worst nightmare became a community's shocking betrayal. Earlier that day, Kayla Henderson had done what any high school sophomore would do on a Tuesday afternoon. She'd attended her classes, eaten lunch with her friends, and stayed after school for tutoring in algebra. Perfectly normal teenage behavior that would later take on tragic significance. The young girl with the infectious laugh and dreams of becoming a veterinarian had struggled with math all semester. Her tutoring session ended at 3:35 p.m. She texted her mother at 3:37 p.m. Done with tutoring, getting a ride home. See you soon. Patricia Henderson assumed Kayla meant she was catching a ride with a friend. She texted back, "Okay, sweetie, be safe. Love you. Love you too, Mom," was Kayla's response. It was the last message Patricia Henderson would ever receive from her daughter. At exactly 3:42 p.m., the parking lot security camera captured Kayla walking toward a Clarkston Police Department patrol car. Officer Derek Morrison was behind the wheel. Kayla approached the passenger side, opened the door, and got inside. The patrol car pulled out of the parking lot at 3:44 p.m. and headed east on Highland Avenue. Kayla Henderson never made it home. Officer Derek Morrison had been Riverside High School's resource officer since August 2015. On paper, he was the ideal candidate. 12 years of experience with the Clarkston Police Department, specialized training in juvenile justice and school safety. Positive performance reviews. Teachers described him as engaged and helpful. Students seemed to like him. But beneath that carefully constructed image lived something else entirely. On his personal laptop, hidden in encrypted folders, Derek had amassed hundreds of photographs of female students at Riverside High. Pictures taken in hallways, in classrooms, in the cafeteria. Some were part of his duties documenting school events. But many others were different, zoomed-in shots. Girls bending over at their lockers, girls in gym clothes, girls who had no idea they were being photographed. Derek had been using his position to feed an obsession, and he'd been getting away with it for years. Because what most people didn't know was that Derek Morrison had already been reported 3 times by 3 different female students, all complaints filed within the past 2 years, all dismissed or ignored by school administration. October 2019. A 16-year-old junior named Madison Cooper told her guidance counselor that Officer Morrison made her uncomfortable. He stared at her. He found excuses to talk to her. He'd asked for her phone number. The complaint was forwarded to the assistant principal. Derek explained he was just being friendly. The matter was dropped. Madison was advised to try not to read too much into Officer Morrison's friendliness. March 2020. A 15-year-old sophomore named Brianna Wells reported that Officer Morrison had given her his personal cell phone number and texted her after school hours. Her mother contacted the school principal. Derek explained he was trying to establish trust with students. He was told to be more careful about boundaries. The complaint was filed, but not escalated. January 2021. A 14-year-old freshman named Ashley Rodriguez told her parents that Officer Morrison had offered her a ride home from school multiple times. She declined each time, but he kept asking. Her parents met with the principal. Derek apologized. He explained he was concerned for her safety. The principal accepted this explanation. 3 complaints, 3 different girls. 3 times Derek Morrison's behavior was reported, documented, and then effectively ignored. And now, 8 months after the third complaint, Kayla Henderson was missing. Patricia Henderson started to worry around 4:30 p.m. when Kayla hadn't arrived home. She called Kayla's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. By 5 p.m., Patricia was driving to the school. The building was locked, the parking lot empty. At 5:30 p.m., Patricia called the Clarkston Police Department to report her daughter missing. A patrol officer took a formal report at 6:15 p.m. The officer suggested that Kayla might be with a friend and lost track of time. Maybe her phone died. By 7 p.m., Detective Marcus Chen was assigned to investigate. Chen contacted Kayla's friends. None had given her a ride. None had heard from her since school ended. At 8:30 p.m., Chen requested access to Riverside High School's security camera footage. At 11:47 p.m., they found it. The parking lot camera. 3:42 p.m. Kayla Henderson walking toward a police patrol car, getting inside, driving away. Detective Chen froze the frame and zoomed in on the vehicle number. Unit 47. Assigned to Officer Derek Morrison. Chen felt his stomach drop. The school resource officer had given Kayla Henderson a ride, and now she was missing. At 12:15 a.m. on September 15th, Detective Chen called Derek Morrison. Derek sounded sleepy. Officer Morrison, I need to ask you about a missing student from Riverside High, Kayla Henderson. We have security footage showing you gave her a ride yesterday afternoon around 3:42 p.m. Where did you take her? I gave Kayla a ride, Derek said, slowly. Let me think. Yeah, okay, I remember now. She asked me for a ride home. Said her mom was running late. I dropped her off at her house. That was it. What time? Maybe 3:50? 3:55? It's only about a 10-minute drive. Did you see her go inside? No. I dropped her at the curb and drove away. I had to get back to the school. Derek, we need you to come down to the station. We need a formal statement. And we need to review your patrol car's GPS data. Derek understood. Yeah, of course. I'll come down right now. Derek Morrison arrived at the station at 1:30 a.m. In the interrogation room, he repeated his story. He'd given Kayla a ride home, dropped her at her house on Oakmont Drive, drove away. Did she give you directions? Chen asked. She told me which street. Chen already knew this was a lie. Patricia Henderson lived at 742 Oakmont Drive, a straight shot from the school. No turns, no directions needed. What did the house look like? It was a brick house. 2-story. Nice yard. Patricia Henderson's house was a 1-story ranch. Vinyl siding. Derek, we're going to pull the GPS data from your patrol car. Is there anything you want to tell me before we do that? Derek's expression changed. I want a lawyer. At 7:30 a.m. on September 15th, the GPS data came back. Detective Chen reviewed it with growing horror. 3:44 p.m. Derek's patrol car left Riverside High School. 3:48 p.m. The patrol car passed 742 Oakmont Drive, Kayla's house, without stopping. 3:52 p.m. The patrol car turned onto Old Mill Road, heading out of town. 4:17 p.m. The patrol car arrived at a location 18 miles outside Clarkston. GPS coordinates placed the vehicle on a dirt access road near Lake Hartwell State Park. The patrol car remained at that location for 37 minutes. 5:41 p.m. The patrol car arrived at Derek Morrison's home. Derek had lied about everything. He hadn't dropped Kayla at her house. He'd driven her 18 miles to a remote area, been there for over half an hour, then driven home. At 9:30 a.m., Derek Morrison was arrested. The charge was kidnapping, but Kayla Henderson was still missing, and Derek wasn't talking. The search for Kayla became massive. Over 100 law enforcement officers converged on Lake Hartwell. Search and rescue teams combed the woods. Divers searched the lake. Cadaver dogs swept the area. On September 15th, they found Derek's body cam lying in the dirt 50 feet from where the patrol car had been parked. The camera had been smashed, deliberately destroyed. The memory card was missing. Police regulations required Derek to wear his body cam at all times on duty. It should have recorded everything. But Derek had destroyed the evidence. The search continued for 3 days. They found nothing. No sign of Kayla. No clothing. No phone. On September 18th, the search was suspended due to a tropical storm. Derek Morrison made bail. $500,000. He was released on September 25th with an ankle monitor. And still, Kayla Henderson remained missing. For Patricia Henderson, the next 4 months were a nightmare. Her daughter was gone. The police believed she was dead, but they hadn't found her body. Patricia appeared on the news pleading for information. Someone knows something. Kayla is out there somewhere. My baby is out there. Please, if anyone has information, please come forward. Derek Morrison's trial was scheduled for February 2022. His defense team prepared to argue that without a body, without physical evidence, the prosecution couldn't prove Kayla was dead. But on January 12th, 2022, 4 months after Kayla disappeared, everything changed. An off-road enthusiast named Tom Bradley was exploring trails near Lake Hartwell with his dog. The area had been closed during the tropical storm and only recently reopened. Tom's dog started barking frantically at something in the underbrush. Tom investigated. About 30 feet off the trail, partially hidden beneath fallen leaves, he found human remains. Tom called 911 at 2:17 p.m. The remains were badly decomposed. 4 months of exposure to the elements, wildlife activity, and storm flooding had taken a severe toll, but dental records confirmed it. The remains were Kayla Henderson. The medical examiner determined that Kayla had died from blunt force trauma to the head. She'd been struck multiple times with a heavy object. The injuries were consistent with being beaten with a flashlight, the kind carried by police officers. Investigators searched the area. 50 feet away, buried under leaves and mud, they found a police-issue flashlight. DNA testing confirmed that blood on the flashlight belonged to Kayla Henderson. Derek Morrison was arrested again on January 13th, 2022. This time, he was charged with murder. There would be no bail. Derek Morrison's trial began on June 6, 2022. The prosecution's case was built on GPS data, destroyed evidence, and lies. Derek Morrison was supposed to protect Kayla Henderson. The prosecutor told the jury he was a police officer, a school resource officer, someone students trusted. But Derek Morrison used that trust to lure Kayla into his patrol car. He drove her to a remote location. He killed her. He destroyed evidence. And then he lied about everything. The defense argued the evidence was circumstantial. Yes, Derek had driven Kayla to the lake. Yes, he'd lied. But that didn't prove he'd killed her. Maybe someone else had been at the lake. The prosecution presented the 3 previous complaints filed by Madison Cooper, Brianna Wells, and Ashley Rodriguez. 3 girls who'd reported Derek Morrison's inappropriate behavior. 3 complaints dismissed by school administration. Derek Morrison had a pattern of targeting female students, a pattern the school ignored, and that pattern culminated in murder. Patricia Henderson testified. She described her daughter, kind, responsible, trustworthy. She described getting that last text, getting a ride home, see you soon. She described the 4 months of not knowing. The forensic evidence was damning. The GPS data, the destroyed body cam, the flashlight with Kayla's blood. Derek's lies about where he'd taken her. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. On June 28, 2022, they returned with their verdict. Count 1, kidnapping. Guilty. Count 2, murder. Guilty. Count 3, tampering with evidence. Guilty. Derek Morrison showed no emotion. He stared straight ahead. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The conviction brought some measure of justice for the Henderson family, but it could never bring Kayla back. Patricia Henderson released a statement after the sentencing. The case raised disturbing questions about how Derek Morrison had been allowed to continue working despite 3 separate complaints about his behavior toward female students. The Georgia State Legislature passed a law in 2023 requiring all school resource officers to undergo additional training on appropriate boundaries and mandating that any complaint about an SRO be reported to both the police department and the state education board. Derek Morrison is currently incarcerated at a maximum security prison in Georgia. He's in protective custody due to the nature of his crimes. Other inmates don't react well to former cops, especially former cops who killed a child. Kayla Henderson should be alive today. She should be 19 years old, preparing for college, pursuing her dream of becoming a veterinarian. Instead, she became a victim of someone who perverted everything his badge was supposed to represent. The last surveillance footage of Kayla shows her walking toward Derek Morrison's patrol car, smiling and waving. She trusted him. She believed he would keep her safe. Today, that image serves as a reminder of how precious that trust is, and how important it is to protect those who cannot protect themselves.